to reconvene after being in camera meeting. I have an amendment to the agenda before it's approved. We'll go to 7A, and it will be to add the statutory rights-of-way Trans Mountain Pipeline Twinning Project. That will be 7A. Motion to approve amended agenda.
Move to second.
Move to second. Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Adoption of the minutes from the minutes of the regular meeting, council meeting held June the 10th, 2019, be adopted as presented. Moved to second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We have a delegation tonight from the Coquihalla Campground. I'd like to welcome Mr. Don Sharp, the Vice President for Holiday Trails Resort Operations. Mr. Sharp, the floor is yours.
Not much of a delegation, just me.
It's you.
Just me.
Nice to see you, and welcome to our council meeting.
Thank you. So I talked to John, I guess probably a couple of years ago, and the fact that the contract that we have with Campground was expiring in March of 2021. And there was a clause in the contract that allowed us to ask for and mutually agree upon a 10-year extension to that contract. And at that point, it was like, well, okay, we're a little bit busy right now, and we're trying to get through some things. And so now here we are, we're 2 years away from the contract basically expiring, and we'd like to renew that contract and extend it out another 2 years, or 10 years, sorry. So just a couple of things about who we are. Holiday Trails Resorts is owned and operated by Kevin DeMarce and the DeMarce family based out of Chilliwack. We have 6 resorts in BC, Alberta, and Washington State. Camperland is our flagship location in Rosedale. Country Maples on the island, Bridgeview, Lethbridge, Dinosaur, and Propeller. Cedars just across the border near Bellingham, and Sunshine Valley, our resort, obviously many of you would know that, which is 15 minutes just up the road from here. We also own and operate the water park and Brattle Falls Motel. And I understand a few of you were up at a fan tour up at Manning Park just recently, and that has quickly become our pride and joy of the Holiday Trails Company. For those of you who don't know, we're building a new lift, we're putting in new staff housing, we're building 8 new cabins as well as a brand new rental ski area shop. So it's been pretty exciting. So that's who we are. Go to the next one. Kevin, as I said, is the owner and operator of the resort, the president. He has been an RCMP, or was an RCMP officer for 23 years, and in fact is having his 55th reunion this week up at Manning Park with his old comrades. Imagine that, 55 years since they went to school together. I said that the other day, I was like, hard to believe. I oversee all the resorts and the campgrounds. I've spent the last 17 years in Washington and Vancouver Island, so I have a bit of ski industry experience, as well as running all the business operations at that resort, which was everything from retail to rentals to snow school. So what we'd like to do, Holiday Trails Resorts, keep this short and sweet, we'd like to invest another $250,000 into the Coquihalla Campground over the next 10 years, which equates to the equivalent of $25,000 per year. There are many projects that the campground is currently sitting on right now that would be great to move forward with. With 2 years left, it's kind of like, well, a question mark on whether we would want to do some of those big projects, but we definitely, the washroom building needs to be replaced and repaired. There's some significant electrical upgrades that need to be done. If we move forward earlier than later, we can move forward with getting these projects done rather than letting the buildings fall into disrepair over the next 2 years. So some of the immediate needs are the current office facility. We have the roof is leaking. If you haven't been to the campground in a while, you'll see that it's sort of a mobile manufactured home that you arrive to. That roof has it actually had so much debris on it that somebody thought it'd be a good idea to go up and clean off the roof. Well, if they hadn't cleaned off the roof, it might not be leaking now. But as soon as they move to anything, and you all know the climate we're in, that you move something and all of a sudden the water gets through. Anyways, that's definitely an area that we need to look at doing, fixing up. We did manage to put a temporary roof over the manager's manufactured home to allow it to make it through the wintertime. Wash house and the washroom buildings are definitely a challenge. There is definitely a challenge as well with people who aren't supposed to be on the site showing up on the site that should be in other places. And that we're going to be putting some code key padlocks on some of the washrooms there to ensure that the people who are staying at the campground get to use the washrooms, that they stay in good repair. We've had some vandalism and some not so nice situations in the past couple of weeks that we're trying to solve the problems. Significant electrical upgrades over the next 5 to 8 years need to be done. That site has been there for quite some time. There's been some upgrades to electrical concerns, but we have a lot of boxes that are loose from shape and not secured into the ground, and power poles that need to be secured into a more fixed location. We believe that we could do a better job in our winter camping if we had the ability to heat tape some of our water lines and some of our sewer lines so that they don't freeze up. And we have done a few sites this past couple of winters, and it's worked out quite well. We think we can enhance that experience for people. In today's world, the number one thing people want when they're camping, believe it or not, is Wi-Fi. So you can see that you can have clean washrooms or Wi-Fi, local Wi-Fi. You can have a food service or Wi-Fi. I allude to the cartoon where this guy's coming up the sand and he's barely making it, and there's a sign that says water that way, internet that way, and he's turning towards the internet. So we just recently spent significant amounts of money upgrading 6 of our locations for new Wi-Fi systems, and now have the capability to handle all of the devices, because if you think about how things have even changed in the last 10 years, we didn't have, everybody didn't have a cell phone, and if they did, they had just the laptop and they had a cell phone, and now they have all of the devices, and every kid over the age of 10 has it as well. So it puts a lot of strain on the system, and we're working with a very antiquated system there. And finally, an updated security system to protect the park and our staff. I mean, it's, we all know the situation, people being in places they're not supposed to be in at times of the day and at night that they're not supposed to be there, and it's put our staff in precarious situations a couple of times, and we need to have a better system to handle that, whether it's a better enhanced video, or need to bring in some security, some outside security to just make sure that the people that are there stay safe. In a nutshell, that's the presentation. I think you have all of the background information. I believe I sent that ahead of time, that you would have been distributed to you. So you can see all of the things that we've done over the last 8 years now. I think that the campground itself, I've been around for 2 years, and we've put significant investment even in the last 2 years prior to, without having that obligation to maintain the capital that we have. We continue to do so just because it's the right thing to do. We've bought new washers and dryers. We've enhanced, if you haven't been down recently, we've enhanced the whole store area. We are painting every picnic table. We are cleaning up all the washrooms. So there's lots of work that continues to go on. But for the bigger items, the Wi-Fi's, the electrical, the wash building, we really need to move forward with the bigger, the longer-term contract, and that's how we ended up here today.
All right, thank you for your presentation. Do you have, excuse me, do you have a current policy in place for long-term camping?
We do. We operate on what we call a 28-day stay, because that eliminates you from being in the landlord business. People are camping, they're not setting up a homestead there. So people are, we do have 28-day stays, and we have, I think, 12 locations that we currently have that ability to use. And in the wintertime, I think it moves up to 16 to 18 sites.
I'm just thinking about down the line for when Trans Mountain gets rolling, they'll be looking for sites for their employees that would rather use their RVs than in a hotel.
And absolutely true, and we've seen that very in a big way in the Cedars, where they have a plant close by, like a gas plant, and so we have a big influx of people coming in for the 28-day stays, and then they leave when the plant reopens or closes up again. But we have the ability to do that. We just need to enhance the winter capabilities.
So that's my last question about the winterizing. Do you not currently now take people throughout the winter to stay?
We do. We have about 8 to 10 people that we do.
So what do they do for facilities?
We have those facilities. We keep one washroom building open for them, and we have heat taped and put sewer lines for those people.
For 8 sites?
For 8 to 10 sites, I believe.
So if you winterize, how many more sites would that be?
Depends on what it would cost to do it.
Okay.
But we could do it. And we have done that same thing. So Sunshine Valley, for example, is open in the wintertime, and it gets to -20 up there, and it stays up functional through the whole winter with probably, I want to say 30 sites. So it's easy. The capability to add winterization with sites is definitely there.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Mr. Sharp? Councillor Smith.
Do you have pass punches for the doors now in the washrooms or no?
No,
They're just open and on trust?
they are, and that's been a mistake. We do need to put passcodes. Even in our most secure locations, we put keypads on our doors, just so that people that are only staying in our location know that that's where they can go to the washroom. But we've had some challenges in the last couple of weeks, and in fact, I just brought them 8 the other day with installation.
Yeah.
So.
That usually solves it.
Yeah, we need to close down the little washrooms up by the river at nighttime, just 10 o'clock, they gotta close down and just keep the two other buildings open. So we'll hopefully be able to solve that problem.
Is along the dike where the problem is usually?
Yeah,
If they come and go?
They come and go there, and inland is a little bit too, so, yeah, we've definitely had our challenges, but we're working through those.
Councillor Harrison.
So I'm just looking over the agreement. Did you put in $100,000 over the 10-year period? Is that the original agreement?
I believe that was the original agreement. I wasn't a part of that, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, that money was put in the first year to year and a half. Like of that 100,000, the agreement was 10 years, $10,000. My understanding with speaking to Kevin was that they put almost all of it in. They front-loaded the whole thing to get RV sites set up, to get, the store set up, and to get power and washrooms properly set up.
Because it says here, in addition to the original $100,000, another $250,000 into Coquitlam camper to ensure the current and relevant.
Correct.
So you're planning on putting another $250,000, which is only $25,000 a year?
Correct. Last year, well, the 100,000 was 10,000 a year for 10 years.
Yes.
What we're proposing is 25,000 a year for 10 years.
But starting in 2021?
Starting next year, or starting as soon as we get a signed agreement. We think that you could get by with what we've got. I mean, that you're gonna, the campground will operate for the next 2 years, and then we'll move forward. But it really needs some work now, some of the significant work. We can put band-aids on it, we can paint buildings, but it's really not solving problems.
Anyone else? Councillor Smith.
So the washroom, would you replace it or would you fix the one up, the older one? Is it borderline?
It's borderline. It's 50-50. I mean, one of the nice things about that washroom is the cinder block building. So you can basically go in and just rip everything out and rebuild inside of it.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, it's really a lot nicer to build from scratch. But again, it comes down to cost and what we can afford to do. Yeah. I do think that it makes sense to reuse what's there rather than getting rid of it, because it's all there. But for an example, we had two toilets blew up over the winter time that were mounted to the back wall, and those toilets were built 30 years ago. Well, those don't exist anymore. So now we have to jack out around the floor to put a new toilet. So, those are the kinds of challenges we face.
Thank you.
Councillor Redlaw.
And just a few questions if I could.
Mm-hmm.
See, you list in your letter here several capital improvements. Some of them are, well, example, so the 40-foot trailer brought in for the new washroom building, is that something that remains with the campsite? It's an asset, it'll become an asset of the district of Hope though?
There are some, John, maybe you can help me out with this. There was some pieces of the components that stayed with the campground, and there was other things that would not stay with the campground. I think that, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that one did.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't believe.
Like other things, obviously the pickup trucks, the gator, the golf cart,
Yeah.
the loader, those would not
They
remain
would
with the
not.
campsite. So you listed them as capital improvements, but really that's just part of your operation, I suppose, right?
Fair enough. Yeah.
And then same with the other, you got the 400 amp service building that's housed in the container building. Would that be something that would be,
Yeah.
located on site? And then like the new washing machines that you brought up, as well as the other sea cans for storage, are those kind of things assets of the campground now?
Do you know what, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. I remember looking through that, I remember reading through the contract, and it was very clear about what stayed and what didn't stay, but honestly, I don't remember which one.
So the contract for the last 10 years, the last 8 years,
It did
laid
identify.
out expectations of
Yes.
improvements and things that would remain,
Yes.
and other things that are just maintenance, repair type situations, obligations that you have, like painting picnic tables. I would assume would be something that would be
Part of your day-to-day.
part of an operation over the course of time, right?
Yep.
Okay, and then I was poking around on the Holiday Trails website. I think it was one in there, you're talking about the Wi-Fi, so I think it was called 10 Go Wi-Fi or something like that.
Correct.
Is that the same idea you want to do?
Yeah, I would get rid of Tango.
Oh yeah, it's not working out?
We've replaced all of, Tango is based out of Texas, and we have With the exception of Pocala Campground and Country Maples on the island, which I want to change but can't right now. We've swapped out Tango to a company called Reality Bites out of Drumheller, Alberta. And they come in with a brand new setup, and they come in with brand new access points and new wire-to-wire locations. And we have not had a single complaint from any of the parks that we've upgraded.
Yeah.
So
that's like a fee that the camper gets to pay, just like when the hotel.
yeah, it's like $3. I think we charge $3 per day per device. So for that, you go in and you enter in a voucher code. We sell you a voucher code. You enter it into your system, and it gives you free Wi-Fi for 24 hours.
So when those companies come in with the infrastructure, who pays for that?
We do.
Okay, and then you collect the money to offset that. So yeah, okay.
And it's not an insignificant amount of money. Plus, what you usually end up doing as well is not only do you have to put in a new Wi-Fi system, but you have to upgrade your feed into your park. So you know where you might have been operating with a Shaw 100 system, now you need to upgrade a Shaw 300, which is totally
Yeah,
double
because
the
if
price.
you got 120 sites or whatever, you got
Yeah.
4 or 5 devices per site potentially, right?
Or more.
Or when?
Because if you have 4 people and everybody has 3 devices, that's 12 devices.
Yeah.
It's actually quite crazy.
Can't believe it. I struggle with one device.
And one last question. You touched on the 28-day stay.
Yeah.
So what do you do with the winter campers now after 28 days?
Most people agree with 28 days stay. If you're camping, the part of the reason why I call it 28 days stay is because people are camping, they're not homesteading. So you're not renting an apartment, you're camping in our sites. So you basically bought a 4-week campsite, and you would agree to, I'm going to stay for 1 28-day stay, or I'm going to stay for 4 28-day stays. And so then it's just like renting.
Oh, they just roll over, so
They
you don't
just
have to
roll over.
move.
You're not renting it.
So it's long-term renting?
It is long-term renting, but on a 28-day contract versus a monthly contract.
It gives them an out as well.
Yeah, it's
Both sides.
On both
You
sides,
and
yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you sure? Councilors?
So, just backing on what Councilor Scott was saying, the $100,000 that you put into the site, that has nothing to do with the stuff you're gonna be taking off. This is improvements that stay on the site.
Yeah.
Like, what would that be?
And we could account for that, well, the washroom building for one. That was a big one, the electrical components, the washroom upgrades, the plumbing maintenance. And again, I can have that list of improvements that we can have for you as well.
But that wouldn't mean, the mobile washroom, the 10 by 40-foot trailer, that wouldn't mean that, because that, you said would be taken off.
No, that's why I said, I'm not sure, do you remember what was in the contract? There was an
We
agreement.
can go over that. Unfortunately, I haven't read it recently either.
There was a significant, well, there was a list of things that we had agreed to do, and that list of the things that would stay once we had done them. And most, if I'm not mistaken, most of those improvements will be staying with the campground.
Thank you.
We'll be verifying that in any case.
Right.
Any other questions, council? All right, thank you, Mr. Sharp.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming in,
Thanks, appreciate it.
giving us that update. Moving on to staff reports, Mr. Fordolowski. Do you want to speak to this before I move forward the motion? Or-
Your worship, this motion relates to 2 new extra rights of way that Trans Mountain is applying for, and has offered the district remuneration for. One is a temporary right of way for 2 years' use as a construction site for the 20 project, and the other is a small extension to an existing right of way, which will allow for the shore up of steep sides, reinforcement of sides to an existing portion of the right of way. Both right of ways are located on the mountainside, across from our public works yard, south across the highway, so steep, heavily treed area. And we do have the total amount, and I did put that away, and I believe it's 6810 for those, and we'll have to advertise twice. So, Councilor, you've approved the resolution. I guess Mr. Mayor should read that out.
If you're finished, I'll go ahead and read it out. That Council declassified the June 24th, 2019 in-camera resolution. That council approved the sale of the 2 additional rights-of-way as part of the Trans Mountain Pipeline Twinning Project for the property legally described as District Lot 7, Yale Division, Yale, formerly Hope, District except as shown on the statutory right-of-way EPP 92819, and that staff advertises disposition as per the community charter, and that staff be authorized to execute the proposed agreements. All those in favor? Opposed? Actually, I should have had a mover and a seconder first. Move and second. Thank you. And now we'll vote again, please. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you for that. There are no committee reports tonight. We'll move into mayor and council reports. I went to the Fraser Valley Regional District Regional and Corporate Services Committee meeting. We had a presentation on the South Fraser Community Rail Plans from Chilliwack to Scott Road SkyTrain Station, that new hydrogen proposed train. It's a very interesting study. I brought it back with me and I forwarded it to Mr. Fordolowski. When he's done with it, we'll put it in your council basket in there because it is interesting. Transit turned it down. He's not giving up. This is the former mayor of Langley, Mr. Green, and I think it's got some merit. I just think his numbers are a little out of date on the costs involved. It's a little bit low, I believe. Second presentation at the regional district was on a clean economy study. What businesses are in place now, looking to the future, collaboration between communities. They discovered a lack of transportation infrastructure in key areas on moving forward. There again, it was a long study and gives you some ideas what current businesses are in place that are green, opportunities to have a green company, and that will, Mr. Fordolowski has as well, and will distribute once he finishes. I did many media requests for the Trans Mountain announcement, and I think the community's looking forward to this moving forward, and they've started the process again of permitting rights of ways, as you know tonight, so we'll see what happens with that. We did a Manning Park tour with the area tourism groups. We were invited to see the upgrades at the facilities that Mr. Sharp talked about. The new cabins are beautiful, and the 8 that are under construction should be ready, I believe, December. We didn't get to the new ski hill because of all the construction that's going on, or the new chairlift, but the new facilities for weddings and all kinds of social functions, they've done a really nice job. I think they're going to do very well up there. To the ribbon cutting for the Hope Outdoor new building. That was a long 20-month process for Lily and Daniel. I'm glad it's open and underway. They had a very busy day on Saturday, and they thanked the public and the staff here for all their support, and they're very excited about their future in that location. The building is very nice. It complements the insurance company building at the end of the street, and Daniel was big, had a lot of input in the design of the building. I attended the Fraser Health Municipal Regional Meeting for mayors and the senior staff with Fraser Health. They were speaking about partners in health, home support, primary, and community care. And some of the things we talked about there as well were the maternity diversion to from Chilliwack to Abbotsford. It's now down to a 2-week temporary close from over, it was going to be originally about 2 months, I believe. They've got it down to 2 weeks. Hopefully that they can hold to that. They are giving the local emergency wards heads up that when this is going to happen, so if there is some emergency, they can deal with it and then ship the mothers to be down the line to get the care they need. Recruitment of professionals is still an opportunity, not in our community, but in the other communities out there around us, as well as so they can staff walk-in clinics longer. That's part of their mandate they want to do. But this time they can't because most of the professionals do not want to work more than 4 days a week and limited hours. We talked about home support, bringing in-house to Fraser Health rather than going to contractors. They have a mix right now, but eventually they will all go in-house. And I don't see how that's going to work so well, but we'll wait and see. Part of it is because of a lack of consistency for home care support. The public have trouble accessing it. How do they access it? Consistency with staff coming to the same families all the time is important, and they're not getting that support at this time. The staffing, I want to go back to staffing for walk-in clinics. They're trying to open them 12 hours a day, Monday to Saturday, to take the pressure off the emergency room wards around the Fraser Valley. Currently, walk-in clinics only take 54 cases per day, and the physician gets a full fee. They can do another 10 for half the fee. Anything over that, the physicians are working unpaid. So that's why if there's 54 people lined up first thing in the morning, they all get their times booked and then the clinic closes, which I did not realize. I thought they were there until they could possibly serve as many clients that were there, but that's not how it works. So they're looking at that fee structure, they're looking at adding more physicians, and there again, they're short people to fill those positions. There was a lot of discussion on palliative and respite care funding, and they are increasing it, but we didn't talk dollar amounts. They need a better coordinated approach to mental health. They're increasing their day programs. They need more support for seniors where they live. Loneliness is the #1 issue amongst seniors, and that's why they want to increase some of these day programs to get them out and offer more support within their home with visits. Not necessarily just for medical, but to visit and chat with them for a while. On Wednesday, I'm representing our community in Kelowna to the Southern Interior Development Investment Trust. $50 million was a one-time allocation put in 2005 to help communities with investment, and so I get this straight. We have not had anyone sit at the table from this council table for over 10 years. So I reached out to them, and I'm going Wednesday for the first time, and I'll get some information and bring it back to council. But they operate independently from the government to support investment in economic development, small business, and key sectors in the Southern Interior. We are the last stop for the Southern Interior, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I think we should be more connected the other way, but I will take it. The trust currently includes providing grants to community projects, scholarships to students, and loans to eligible businesses in a range of sectors. So there's it's pretty flexible, lots of opportunity for us to take advantage of it. We haven't as yet, and I think we should. So I'll bring the information back, we can share it amongst our groups that we're involved in, and we should go after some grant money, whether it's help a small business or to help with economic development in our community. The last thing on my list today, I'd like to thank the community for their participation in our Participation Community Better Challenge. The results will be officially announced on Thursday. We are in 2nd place, Enderby's in 1st place, but it's not just based, there's other criteria. So we will know the outcome on Thursday. That I don't know, I'm very confident that we're going to do extremely well. We were 2nd nationally. So that's a lot of participation in our community. So congratulations to those that participated. Councillor Erickson, off to you. I've done enough talking.
Thank you. So I attended the Chamber of Commerce meeting, and they're going ahead with ordering the lights, new lights, Christmas lights. They'll be arriving in September, and they're also applying for a grant to get more Christmas lights. I guess the Christmas lights they're doing, they're redoing the streets, but then they want more Christmas lights for the trees and other areas, so they're applying for a grant for that. And the farmers market was discussed quite a bit at the meeting, and how well it's doing. I had the privilege of going through the farmers market and spent some time there on Friday. Everybody was very, very happy, that the people that were there. And it was quite busy. I was there around 11 o'clock in the morning. And one person that was operating a little booth said that the only suggestion he would have would be more signage on Highway 1 and Highway 3 to direct people in toward the farmers market. But otherwise, they were all very, very, very happy. Had the opportunity to go through the open house at Hope Outdoors, And I was really happy with the construction and the beauty that's in there, the nice design. I walked through it before it was finished and looked at the apartments upstairs. Very, very nicely done. Very nice asset for our community. Dan and his wife have done a very nice job. So I'm very happy with it. And Manning Park, I had the opportunity to go through Manning Park. I didn't go through on the opening days. I was there a week before because that's just what my time allotted to. And it has been a real improvement. Manning Park was a very big thing when my family was growing up. The kids all took ski lessons, and we skied there for many, many, many years in a row. So it was been and hiked around Manning Park for years and years. So I had the opportunity to go through it and hike around the lake, and I'm very happy it's in our community area. It's a great place. I also attended the Hope Ratepayers meeting, and yeah, that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Erickson. Councillor Medlock.
Well, thank you. Just a few sort of upcoming things going on. This is really loud, huh?
No, I always forget to put it on.
So there's an Advantage Hope meeting tomorrow that I'll be attending. And then Canada Day is coming up soon here. So I'm involved with the car show, of course, again, located on the grass in the park. And Chilliwack's car show was canceled last weekend due to weather. So there's been an invitation to all those that were on their group to come to Hope. So I've been getting, as always, a lot of phone calls from different people that have never been asking about it, and I expect a good turnout, and weather permitting, I suppose it's supposed to be decent for now. So that's always good. I really enjoy that day. But I don't do that alone, so it's the Hope Motorsports group that's involved with that, and then we partner with the FVRD, Jody Castle and they're at the rec center, so they help out a lot with the other stuff that goes on down at the park here, where we've got cake and Mark Strahl will be here and all that. There's going to be music on the stage, the car show, the Lions Club will be doing their food booth, and then everything switches gears in the evening up to 670 Ballpark where they got concerts. I believe there's a beer garden again, and close to that will be a mechanical bull, so it should be entertaining this year. Right near the beer garden, yeah, and then finish off the night with fireworks. So it's going to be a great day, so I'll really look forward to July 1st. And then the next day, everybody pays their taxes. So, yeah, that's what's happening in the near future.
I think we can turn that bull riding thing into a fundraiser that night.
Here you go. Let's see how long the Americans stay on.
Yeah. I'm up for that.
8 seconds, full ride.
Councillor Smith, go ahead.
Thanks. So we T-ball warmed up the season on June 17th, or 19th rather. We had 22 kids this year. Some amazing parents were very much involved with the kids, which we're very proud of. And Joey and Catherine Huxbone were a very big part of making this happen. So we're really happy that a lot of good kids came there. I also had a chance to tour Manning Park. This is for us being mayor. It has done a lot of improvements because over the years it's come so far. So I'm so glad to see it. One of the interesting things in the new cabins that they have 2 washrooms downstairs, but upstairs is where the kids stay, putting a washroom up there. Because all day, the parents listen to the kids going upstairs. So somebody obviously in the architect's department have kids that stay there. I toured the Hope Preschool and Daycare. A lot of good things happen there with young minds and everything else. Lucia's doing a great job over there. Hope Outdoor, the opening of that, which of course was a very excellent event. Councillor Stu and I went to the Maccabee Fossil at Cache Creek, which is Communities of the Future. A big project of ours with the Bonaparte Band and other groups up there for a soft opening. It's very, very interesting, 53 million years old, the site, so not many people originally attended. Also attended a chamber meeting with the farmers market, like I said, talked about that, some new signs coming. Was at Lawrence Eddy Acres, met with the Clock Farm. They've leased the farms at floods for 5 years. They planted corn. You can jump over the fence, but it's cow corn. You may not want to eat it. But anyway, so that's a 5-year project. It's the first time in 20 years we've had anything there. So we're pretty excited to be a part. So that's a great thing for agricultural thing for the area that we're trying to get involved in. Chainsaw carving. Just so today, Rod Peters is going to do a salmon barbecue with bannock at the thing. So that was a great addition. A lot of people came for that, we like that. What else we got here? I think they're pretty, CIB judges will be here July 16th, so we're asking people to do a little lecture around the place, we're trying to look after the town. We just want to make a good impression, so that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Smith, you've been busy. Councillor Stewart.
Okay, so I went to the Golden Angels meeting on June 18th. Just want to let you know they're having their summer barbecue. It's July 17th. Bring a salad or dessert at 11 a.m. till about 2 p.m. And the burgers will be supplied. So July 17th. They'll be holding a work party to clean up the exterior of the building, but the date has yet to be announced, so if you're on their Facebook page, you can check that in. They'll let you know if you have a little free time, can give a hand around there, make the place look really nice. And the next potluck dinner will be held on the first Saturday in October, and they were so pleased with the way that their pancake breakfast went in May that they're going to do pancakes again in October. So I'll keep you posted, and they had a great turnout before, and they're hoping for the same for that one. Okay, so the second thing I did was the webinar on economic development, the survey in depth. And so they took that information that Mr. Fortolowski sent out to us, and then they dove deeper into it. And they were talking about the people who responded to the survey, 63% of those did their economic development in-house. Well, I think it was 17% used an outside agency or society, and some still are not having a fixed way of doing economic development. One of the most popular ways for economic development in municipalities is tourism. And they said that to watch out for the one downfall, and that is that with so many people going for the same dollars, it kind of liquefies the dollars that are available. But then they gave other examples of little things that are going on, or maybe a different way of approaching economic development where the pots are really flourishing. I sent out the complete survey results to everyone earlier today, because I think it dove a little bit deeper into that survey. It's not so surfacey, it's really good stuff, actually. And that's good. Okay, so number 3, the webinar series from the BC NPHA on affordable housing. So they put on a webinar. They focused on funding that's available, the importance of a housing needs assessment, and they referred to the Canada Housing Rental Index to get information on who's reporting rentals in our area and are they affordable. Suggested that 33% is the highest you should go for a living expense, and what is the gap in living expenses and the actual amount rent is being charged. And they will offer help to deal with community resistance on supportive housing projects, and you can contact them through their website email. I also went to the Maccabee Heritage Site with Councillor Smith, and that was a really incredible day. Thank you so much. I got a history lesson on the way up. We stopped in Spence's Bridge at a little building, coffee shop. It was an old packing house that came to Canada from England in many pieces, and there's numbers on the buildings. You pointed those out for me, and then when you put it back together, you just put it together by numbers. It was very, very fun. The one thing I really liked about the presentation at the Heritage Site was it was a unique partnership in a way that it was Community Futures, Thompson River University, tourism agencies, I think there's 2 or 3 tourism agencies, and then the Bonaparte band. And in this case, the Bonaparte band is taking the lead on this project. And I just thought the speeches were really, really good. They made you feel like this is a very successful project. So I thought that was really good. And Okay, I went to an inaugural recognition dinner for students who completed some training in a trade that was held at the rec center on the 19th of June. And it's the first of its kind, but as you know, School District 78 does a combination with several different universities and helping kids get into some type of a trade that if they wish to. So now we're going to be holding a recognition dinner in hope to recognize the students that go through our school system. And last but not least, Tillicum Open House. I attended that on June 20th. There was a photo booth, there was sing-along, a jelly bean draw, and a barbecue. And it was a great afternoon. The weather stayed good for us. And just so much fun to be around them. And last but not least, Purple Lights. So we just reviewed the minutes from the previous meeting. It's moving along. And I have a request that Ms. Mayor Rob be present at the opening of the Purple Lights, October 1st, 6 p.m. in Memorial Park to do an opening remark. If that's okay.
I will be on my way to Ireland.
You will not be there?
I will not be there.
Pretty sure of that.
Yeah. But thank you for the invite.
Should we refer possibly to acting?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll let them
We'll
know.
figure out who that is.
Kelly Medlock.
Yeah.
Say yes, can I?
So,
Okay, and that's all I have to report?
well, if you send him a little reminder, Councillor Stewart, I'm sure he'll remember.
Okay.
Councillor Tron.
Thank you. Like with a lot of other councils, I attended on Saturday afternoon the grand opening of Hobo Doors. It's great to see Lily back open in the beautiful new building. She reiterated to me that a rep told her that it was one of the busiest openings he's seen in a long time. It was very well attended. Mid last week, I was contacted from Kevin Estrada of Sturgis Slayers, and we met at the Hope Water Street boat launch and discussed and brainstormed for nearly an hour about current issues with existing boat launch. We both came to the conclusion that more safe access is required. I'm sure a lot of you know that the no coast Gilbert has installed up to his property line. It's kind of cut off the previous access to the boat launch. Also, he's installed 2 gates along his property line with no parking signs, which is well within his means, but it also took out probably, I would say, 3 or 4 parking stalls for boats and trailers, but probably 8 to 10 parking stalls for personal vehicles. When we walked the property, we came to the conclusion that an immediate fix would be to move the yellow barriers to the river's edge, which would allow more room for boaters to access the launch with greater ease. There's about 10 to 12 feet of grass before the river's edge, and right in the direct, right correlation to across from the over to the no post. And we think if we move those back to the river's edge, because the current purpose of the existing no post is just so that no vehicles obviously go back over the edge. But I just I think that for a current quick fix, it would just be to need to move those no posts back. That would rectify the current problem. And just proper signage to notify locals and tourists just not to park in front of said barriers. What happens is, and I was there on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at separate times, just to notify, or just to observe the traffic, and even fishing down there personally myself, is if it's not signed, or proper signage is there, a long box truck or tourists, I mean, you can see from Water Street how actually scenic it is, people park in there, and if the river is low enough, they'll park their vehicles and they'll leave them and walk down the river, without even knowing that they're actually blocking the launch, said launch. So if someone's actually trying to take their boat out or launch their boat in, having to find the tourists to actually move the vehicle can be quite angry. It's problems anyway. So I think with the proper signage to notify tourists and said fishermen to not park along said barriers, as well as moving those barriers back, it would be great for short-term rectifying the problem down there. And we also discussed long-term about, with Kevin and most of the guides, that they've developed a great relationship with DFO, and they were on board with maintenance of the existing ramp, whether it be with pressure dust or just a packing material, because at the moment right now it's quite rocky and quite damaging to trailers and when you're launching and moving your boat at the time. And I just wanna know, like, the busy season's upon us, and the sooner we can get this rectified, probably the better with July 1st coming around. So.
How many sites do we have for access?
For actually launching,
Yes,
just the one.
that's it.
I'm aware of one outage,
It's the other way.
I'm aware of one outage right in front of Schwannhammer Reserve. And through the contacts, whatever, they've had their boats, like, they've had boats towed out of there, they've had it vandalized. It's just, and it's obviously a longer drive in, to the guys. But they we're talking with Kevin, they're passionate about what they do, and they have a great, like all with personal fishermen as well as commercial fishermen, they have done maintenance to the said launch before at Water Street, and he said it's a good working relationship with DFO's on board. So with council's approval, I mean, obviously not right away, but with council's approval, they would like to work with us, and they, even out of their own pocket, have put maintenance, and will do maintenance to that boat launch. But I think short term, they'll be very happy with just moving those barriers back, and I'd be happy to meet with anybody down there, show you kind of what we discussed, but it's a really quick fix, and it'll make them quite happy.
Another thing is too, that on the finger, that the Telfiat, people can park their vehicles there for $5 a day, and that takes the people away from that area that are staying, for the long day for fish, so it'll really help a lot, so.
Okay. Any other questions for Councilor Tron on this? You're gonna work with staff on this, or where do you want to take this forward?
I would be happy to, at their convenience, to meet with the more district or public works down there, and just let you know kind of what my ideas
You and I can discuss it, Councilor Tron, and we'll try to move the barriers forward as well.
And we'll support your work, obviously, where it makes sense to move forward on it. So,
Thank you.
do you have anything else you want to report on tonight?
That's it for me.
All right, thank you for your reports. Into permits and bylaws. Over to Director Gill, I guess, right? Director of Community Development.
Your worship, the first item that's come before you is the return report for the development variance permit of 710 3rd Avenue. We had gone out for notification and have not received anything going against this proposal.
All right, let's move forward with this one. The council approved the issuance of a development variance permit in order to relax the northern exterior side yard setback from 3.5 meters to 0.38 meters in order to replace and change the existing roof design and supporting componentry. Wow.
Componentry.
You guys are $10 words here. For the existing accessory garage on the property at 710 3rd Avenue. And further that section 5.8B, citing exemptions as provided in zoning bylaw 1324, allow for the roof overhang on the accessory garage be reduced from 1.5 meters to 0.3 meters. And further that for the purposes of section 504 of the Local Government Act, substantially start any construction within 2 years shall mean the issuance of a District of Hope building permit for the replacement and change of the existing roof on the garage before June 24th, 2021. Moved. Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Your second report, please.
Your worship, through you, this report is for a geotechnical hazards development permit, 21647 Thacker Mountain Road. The proponent would like to build a single-family dwelling and any sort of permitted accessory structures. The property owner is aware that any sort of service connections for this site will need to go through the 753 system.
Okay. So I'll read the motion that the geotechnical hazard development permit be approved for the property 21647 Thacker Mountain Road for the construction of a new dwelling and permitted accessory structures subject to the District of Hope receiving a satisfactory certified report from a qualified professional confirming site-specific safe building envelopes, and further that the Director of Community Development be authorized to endorse the geotechnical hazard development permit and required covenant document, and further that for purposes of the development permit validity period, the conditions of the development permit shall expire on June 24th, 2021. And further that for purposes of section 504 of the Local Government Act, substantially start any construction shall mean the completion of the foundation of the proposed single-family dwelling as certified safe by a qualified professional.
Move with a question.
Okay, moved, seconded, question.
Thanks for bringing up the 0.753 water system, I never thought of that. Is there possible to add to that system with the current situation?
Your worship, through you, the way that everything's set up with the controller is the fact that there are existing service connections going to property line.
Okay.
It's the point when they want to say, they want to do a subdivision, they want to add an additional user to it, is when you get the note.
Okay. So it is no issues at all?
That's correct.
Call the question, all those in favor? Carried. Your next report, number C.
Your worship, through you, this report technically came before council on April 8, 2019. However, the proponent has changed the existing footprint. They've basically removed the complete foundation. Previously, it was proposed that they were going to build on the existing foundation. In this case, they're now expanding it. And therefore, they have to now go through the development permit process again through council's approval for flood erosion and geotechnical hazards and the streamside protection for the fish-bearing creek nearby.
Sorry, when did you say this cycle started before?
On April 8th.
All right, thank you. That a flood and erosion hazard, geotechnical hazard, and streamside protection development permit be approved for the property at 66436 Cockrell Lake Road for the construction of a single-family dwelling and approved accessory structures subject to the District of Hope receiving a satisfactory certified report from a qualified professional confirming site-specific safe building envelopes. And further, that the Director of Community Development be authorized to endorse the flood and erosion hazard, geotechnical hazard, and streamside protection development permit and required covenant document. And further, that for purposes of the development permit validity period, the conditions of the development permit shall expire on June 24th, 2021. And further, that for the purposes of Section 504 of the Local Government Act, substantially start any construction shall mean the placement of a foundation for the single-family dwelling or flood protection works as certified safe by a qualified professional.
Move to the question.
Okay, moved and second, discussion, Councilor Medlock.
So this property, if I remember, well, first of all, I drove by to see where it was, and I see that the foundation's already gone.
Yep.
So it's gotta do something now at this point. Do they plan on putting in a basement? Like I'm thinking, I remember the old house there, I knew who used to own it, I suppose, and they had flooding issues. And I think that stream there is one of the ones that we still need to do some work on.
Your worship, through you, to answer the question, there was a specified flood construction level with the previous report. They had confirmed the top of the foundation that was there. So the likelihood of a basement is probably...
Okay, but a qualified professional would have to certify that anyhow.
That's correct.
Okay, and then does the fact that we haven't done any work there with the stream, as far as we were waiting for fish window to be able to get in there, is that gonna, is it done? I don't think it's
That's
done.
across Cockrell Lake Road with
We put a
the,
new culvert in.
we've done those works, but
Oh,
across
it's
the top of the
completed,
property.
okay. I thought that it was still to be done, I thought we were gonna do it, and then we had to wait for fish window.
There were some repairs. I can confirm exactly what happened. I don't have the direct report.
Okay, well, that's good news. So it doesn't pose any issues as long as it's qualified
And it
professional.
would be treated separately in the sense that that's in-stream works. That's under Section 11 of the Water Sustainability Act. This development would be under the riparian areas regulations. Basically, a qualified environmental professional would just look at it, do an assessment, see where further enhancement is required for, let's say, fish habitat and other sort of...
I was thinking more of a liability from the district point of view is if we still had to do works in the stream and that was causing
The
flooding issue.
stream works would probably fall into the road dedication and not on the private property. And if so, we would probably seek an easement or something that would sort of alleviate
Okay,
that.
gotcha.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. You're having a busy night, Mr. Gill. What's next?
Yep, it's a development variance permit for 586 Wardle Street, and it's in regards to a potential subdivision. They're proposing a 3-lot subdivision, maintaining 1 lot where the existing dwelling is, a 2nd lot right next to it going on the east side, and then another lot more towards the rear. Lot 3, the one that is towards the rear or facing Hazel, it meets the general requirements for area, however, it doesn't meet the lot depth. And therefore, it requires a variance permit for the lot depth requirement. Overall, it does still give a sufficient building envelope for building. The house would be more horizontal versus a depth base.
Okay. The council approved the preparation of a development variance permit for the property at 586 Wardle Street in order to reduce the minimum lot depth for proposed lot 3 from 30 meters to 21 meters in order for the owner to subdivide the land, and further that in accordance with the District of Hope Development Procedures and Public Hearing Information Bylaw, the Local Government Act and the Community Charter authorize staff to issue a notice of intent to consider the approval of the development variance permit to the neighboring property owners. I'll move her in a second for discussion. Thank you. Okay. Councilor Erickson.
So, to you, Mr. Gill, that long stretch in number 2, on lot number 2, is it only 9.22 meters wide? It looks like that's what mine says.
It meets the 15-meter requirement. It's not 9.22, it's 15.24 meters. In the rear, it drops down to that area, but
Yeah.
there's sufficient area going back, but it's the frontage requirement found in the zoning bylaw that says.
So the frontage is going to be on Hazel Street?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and the back, that's pretty narrow to do anything on, it's just,
Basically, the building portion, because of its 644 square meters,
yeah.
there's sufficient building envelope there, which wouldn't require a variance going into the rear portion there.
Okay, are they gonna have access to it from Wardle or just from?
A driveway access permit hasn't been issued, the lot has been created, so it'd be at the time of building the structure, once the contemplated lot, if approved.
Any other questions, council? Okay. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. You're on a roll, Mr. Gill.
Your worship, through you, as members of the previous council remember, Coquihalla Junction, where the Starbucks site is currently, the applicant has come forward for the phase 2 portion to the rear. It was back in 2018 when the property was rezoned to C5 to include a retail component to the site. The drawings attached do meet the guidelines of the I guess the rail and service corridor development permit for the Old Hope Princeton Way. Council should keep in mind that typically we will require any proposals to not have a corporate theme, but the applicant is confident that that's who's going to be sort of in that main portion of the building.
Of the retail section.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, moving forward, that a rail and highway service corridor form and character development permit for the property at 590 Old Hope Princeton Way be prepared to support a retail store, and further that the Director of Community Development be authorized to approve minor changes to the rail and highway service corridor form and character development permit, and further that for purposes of the development permit validity period, the conditions of the development permit shall expire on June 24th, 2021. And further, that for purposes of any associated building permit, that the substantially start of any construction shall mean the completion of an approved foundation for the proposed retail structure as certified safe by a qualified professional. Move.
I'll move.
Second. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Councilor Erickson.
I guess through you, Mr. Gill, again, to you. 6th Avenue, the extension of 6th Avenue, who is going to be responsible for putting the curbs and the gutters in there and the paving and just upgrading 6th Avenue in that area?
Your worship, through you, we are still in conversations with the applicant. Right now, we've settled on curb and gutter and let's say extension of sidewalk where it's necessary is going to be from the developer. We are currently working with the road end of things still.
On the developer side of the street?
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Smith?
We are working on a congestion of the traffic there. We have a plan for that because it's kind of busy right now. July and August is going to be crazy down there. So we have something in the works for that.
Mr. Mayor, it's still a four-way, or it's still a two-way stop with the right-of-way going to Old Oak Princeton Way, and as I updated you by email last week, working with the Ministry of Transport, they are having a traffic count for July to get a good baseline, and they're already doing some engineering and looking at a four-way traffic light, which I think is a reasonable proposition moving forward. So we'll keep you informed, but other than that, I don't believe there's any traffic measures that we can actively take on that particular road.
Yeah, but just looking down the road, it's a little bad problem.
And your worship, through you, and when the rezoning application came forward, it sort of indicated what was going to take place, and it was forwarded on to highways at that time.
Oh, back then. Oh, okay, good, thank you.
Yeah, you were given a heads up pretty early.
Yeah.
All right, so, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. Mr. Gill?
Your worship, through you, this report is for 22175 Ross Road. It's accessed through private easements. It's a property near the Sham First Nations, or Chilwell First Nations property. It's for a geotechnical hazards development permit for a 3-lot subdivision, a bare land 3-lot subdivision.
That a District of Hope geotechnical hazard development permit be approved for the property at 22175 Ross Road in order for the owner to subdivide the property into 3 bare land strata lots and associated construction of single-family dwellings and improved accessory structures, and further that upon the District of Hope receiving an acceptable certified report from a qualified professional confirming site-specific safe building envelopes for the property at 22175 Ross Road, authorize the Director of Community Development to endorse the geotechnical hazard development permit and the required covenant document. And further that for purposes of the geotechnical hazard development permit validity period, the conditions of the development permit shall expire on June 24th, 2021. Excuse me. Further that for purposes of any associated building permit as per section 504 of the Local Government Act, substantially start any construction shall mean the completion and registration of the approved subdivision. Mover, move and second, any discussion? Councillor Erickson.
So, I'm a little familiar with that property. Did it not originally go through the reserve, the access road? Or has that been taken care of?
Your worship, through you, the previous approving officer didn't have confidence in that existing reserve road that comes onto this property as well. Therefore, there was a secondary easement that was sort of established.
And is it a registered easement?
It's a registered easement. No matter what, the approving officer must have sufficient access, legal access to the site, and it was approved during that time.
And does the district have to supply water for these 3 sites?
No. What it is the reason why it's going into a strata, there's going to be a central sort of water system given out to the 3 lots, so which would suffice as a community water system, but it would be protected under common property as part of the strata.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you, Mr. Gill. Fees and charges amendment bylaw number 1460, that the fees and charges amendment bylaw number 1460, 2019 be adopted this 24th day of June, 2019.
Move adoption.
I'll second the
Second,
question.
and one question, absolutely, Mr. or Councillor Erickson.
Okay, I guess this goes to Mr. Gordowski. Are these rates the same as last year, or could we get a copy of the rate to see how much increase it has been, if there's an increase?
The only change, Mr. Mayor, to the rates is the addition of a new roll-off fee, which will allow for commercial roll-offs to use the transfer station. There are no other fee changes for the transfer station, as per this amendment. And a report will be due back, if adopted, to council in December.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and then there was something changed with this, but it was just.
Because
no longer land owned.
we're no longer indicating there's a price difference between those out of area and in area
Right.
to use the transfer station.
Yes. All right, any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Correspondence, that the, for information correspondence, this dated June 24th be received. Thank you, moved, second, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. No other pertinent business. At this time, it's any questions from the public related, for items relevant to the agenda. We need to speak to the agenda at all? Hearing none, I'll move on. Our next meeting is Monday, July the 22nd, right here at 7 o'clock. Move adjournment. Move second. All those in favor? All those carried. Let's go.